prettiest time of year, though. I mean, those trees just look so nice, and I love all those nice colors out there. And speaking of the colors, we have Tyler Weir.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Socially Sensitive. I'm your host, David.
And I'm Wolfie.
Yay.
Hello, everybody.
What has life been giving you this week? The usual?
Lemons. Yes, lemons. And I got nothing to make lemonade out of. The usual. Workouts have sucked. I had a little smarty little guy. He's like half my age, which isn't hard to do anymore. At work, I was talking about, we were doing bear complexes. And he's like, Randy, you've been doing this for a long time. Can you explain to me how it is you're still so big? And I'm like, well, Matt, it's real simple. I said, you cannot out-train a bad diet.
That's true.
I am the example of that. I said, my eating habits suck so bad.
Yep.
I said, I got on track back 2 or 3 years ago and was looking pretty good at about 205. And if I would have continued, I'm pretty sure I would have gotten under 205. I would have gotten under 200 pounds.
Yeah.
But the wife wasn't getting the same results that I was getting, and so she got frustrated, and we ended up quitting.
Yeah, you don't make a six-pack in the gym. You make a six-pack in the kitchen.
Yep, that's exactly it.
Yeah. I pulled up, was looking at Twitter, what's trending, and the Rippaverse is one of the top trending items that popped up, where you were talking about the Rippaverse comic.
Yes,
so,
but it's Eric July. He's
July.
also a podcast person. He's come across my Facebook feed a couple of occasions, and when I do see him, I like listening to him. Sometimes just about all the time, he's got on some kind of comic book, either T-shirt or hat or something like that. But he doesn't talk he talks all kinds of things, not just comic books.
Right.
And he's a pretty interesting guy. I've enjoyed watching what comes across my news feed on my Facebook.
That's what it says. Newly launched non-woke comic book defies cancel culture, brings in over 1.7 million in the first 4 days. And that was when this article was written. When we just looked at it. What was it? It was over 2 million. It was over 2 million now, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you said it was over 2 million.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool. I mean,
we'll go ahead and follow them.
This woke trend in comic books and stuff like it. It's just ridiculous. And I'll say it again. There's no need to make a trans Flash or a gay Superman or whatever. And here's the thing. If you go out and you don't have a trans person writing the trans Flash stories, then the trans people are going to realize it, and they're going to be insulted because you've got this straight guy or girl writing a trans comic book for trans people, and how can they understand the struggles of the trans? So now you've got to go out and find a trans person to do the writing and art and everything like that, just to hush them up. And you may not be getting a very good writer, or you may not be getting a very good artist.
I was going to say, I don't have any problem with a character in it that way, if it fits the story. If it's like, or just right, it just, what would you say? It just organically happens in the story. The problem is that, attempting to shoehorn it into every story, because that's what they think is the topic of the day.
Yeah, I'm just like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. It just seems like DC is just like saying, we want to go out of business. Of course, having a book go hundreds of issues nowadays is really a rarity, because every 5 or 10 years it seems like they want to just reboot everything.
Yeah.
And start all over again. So
it's because they're launching, they think that they think the easiest way to sell a comic isn't based off of good storytelling. They think the best way to sell one is have issue number 1 on the title.
Yes.
So if we just tweak it a little and reissue as a new line.
Yeah, DC's gotten real bad at that.
Yeah, because that does sell a lot of issues. There's some people, and I used to be that way. I would go in, when I would walk in comic shop, there's a one here in London, they have a whole section of the wall that is just for the new ones that just released. So here's all the new. So when you walk in, you're like, okay, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, and you grab them all just because. I mean, it's all speculation that you're thinking, oh, these are going to be worth something one day, when 99.9% of them won't be worth $1 a year from now.
Yeah. I kind of wish I had that mentality when I was younger, because I had gotten I think I'd gotten my mom to take me to Johnson City to a comic book on there. And I walked in, and as I was wont to do, I asked the guy behind the counter, I'm like, hey man, what's new out that's pretty good? It's a pretty good read. Really, you should do. The guy at the comic book shop, what's he got to do all day except sit there and read the freaking new comic books that come out? And then wait on his customers. So he's got to know his product. You know what I'm saying?
Especially if he's given you some good tips in the past that you knew. Okay, he's got decent taste.
This was only like my first or second time in this store, and the book he had told me about. He's like, it's called Teenage Mutant Turtles.
Oh yeah, nah, that sounds dumb. I don't want any of those.
Like, well, where is it? He's like, it's right over there. And I was like, okay. Well, I mean, I didn't think it was dumb from the get go, and I'm like, well, that's kind of a weird title. Yeah. But I did go over and I picked it up and I kind of thumbed through it and I looked at it and I was like, yeah, I don't think this is for me. Yeah. But it was the number one issue, and I think it was first printing, number one. Yeah. And I was just, well, it wasn't in color. It was a black and white comic, which I was, I really liked having my comics in color. After a while, I'll get away from that because I've things that, like the ElfQuest stuff, it was all black and white. Justice Machine, I think, it had a nice, pretty color cover, and then the inside was all black and white. But be that as it may, like I said, I went and I looked through it, and I was like, nah, I don't think so. And I laid it back down, and that would be the one thing that just goes, crazy.
But it was a pretty limited run, too. I mean, some of those early ones back then were, they weren't like now. They'll throw out a number one of something that they'll print like 7 million copies of, or some ridiculous number. Because they're like, oh, we know this will still sell, regardless of story or anything. But I pulled this up. You ever watch TOSH?
Because it's the number one.
Or just TOSH.0?
I think I've seen him a little bit.
He is Daniel TOSH.
Yeah, what's he going to talk about?
This I saw this the other day and I threw it in the list. I thought it was kind of funny, but it's a race thing, because he does. He used to do he still does, I think. A bit on his show on TOSH.0 is it racist? So they played some news clips and some things, but here's this one little.
Not the prettiest time of year though. I mean, those trees just look so nice, and I love all those nice colors out there. And speaking of the colors, we have Tyler Weir.
Thanks, guys. That was an honest mistake. Who here hasn't accidentally called one of their coworkers colored? In this hypersensitive day and age, it's hard to know who will be offended by what. And to make sure they're safe, I field tested them. It's time for Is It Racist? Thank you guys for coming. I would like you just to raise your hand whenever you feel the term I use is offensive. Here comes a pack of water flaps. Lock up your dogs.
Uh-oh, no, that doesn't sound good. Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
Okay. Sugar taster.
That's a little offensive.
What do you think sugar taster means?
I don't know. I don't know why you think that he tastes sugar.
Why do you keep pointing to the black person?
That's what
They clink clunk.
Clink clunk.
Clink clunk.
Hey, we did the railroad and we did all that work, and then you come back to use this kind of term?
Okay, that is not directed toward anyone. It's just the word clink clunk.
Well, I don't like it.
Sounds kind of offensive.
Okay. Spoon face.
I don't like that. Why? Because lots of Asians got round face and they might think you're talking about them.
Why are you offended by apple picker?
Because no one called me an apple picker.
What if you were to pick an apple?
I'm still not an apple picker.
Well, thank you all for your time. You can collect your $10 on your way out.
I like his show. I think he does some pretty funny episodes. Now you can't get away with half of that. I watched a reaction video the other day of this group. They were watching The Office for the first time, and it was the diversity awareness episode, which I think is really funny. But that's what they were like. You could never make this show today. But I mean, there's a lot of shows that. I mean, South Park gets away with a ton of stuff like that.
That's because they have for so long.
Yeah.
You know, and they're animated. But like Seinfeld, you probably couldn't do Seinfeld again.
I don't know. I bet you could. Maybe not on the big three, but like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They're still putting out episodes, and they are harsh. They're rough sometimes, but I like that show. Laura and I did the doing a reaction video. We're going to start going through Superstore. Have you ever watched Superstore?
Mm-mm. No,
it's a good show.
What's it about?
Here, I'll play the trailer for you.
I've never even heard of it.
It's basically a spoof of Walmart. Basically, I mean, if you ever worked retail or in a Walmart or something like this, you're like, oh yeah, this store definitely, this show, because it's got a ton of like inside jokes that if you worked retail would.
Just checking your new hire forms. Doesn't say anywhere on here if you've got a girlfriend.
Oh, no.
No, but you are heterosexual, right?
Are you allowed to ask that?
No.
You've shopped there. Maybe you've even worked there.
Around here, the less screwing everything up you do, the better. You're only discounting everything 25%.
Yeah, override, yes, reprice.
That would change everything to 25 cents.
Attention shoppers, stock up quick! Go, 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 go!
Shut it off! Yeah!
Yeah, you better hurry up, get that TV! Stop, please!
Sales over! Like my mom always said, if you don't work hard, baby Jesus will cry.
What?
I've made some mistakes, but that doesn't mean we can't find some moments of beauty in the everyday.
Did you really use the phrase moments of beauty, like, conversationally?
Okay. Everybody get down on the ground!
I'm gonna start killing somebody! Unless you agree to marry me, Cheyenne.
Attention shoppers, even a big box store has to close.
Gotta keep it cracking.
This is your garden variety decongestant. This is crystal meth, okay?
Am I the only one that thinks it's weird that she walking around with a bag of crystal meth?
I think it's a really funny show, but
that looked hilarious, especially with the little kid sitting on the potty.
Yeah,
he had his pants, his diaper down, or her diaper is just sitting there, and the worker comes and walks behind him and looks, and then just turns around and walks away. Like, yeah, I'm not picking that up.
and almost
I didn't see that.
And about 90% of that trailer is the first episode. Her and I are going to go through each of those episodes and do a video for them. What else is trending today on Twitter?
Well, we had I heard a news article over the last few days, selling of the strategic reserves to other nations.
Right.
Norway was one of them, and China was another one. And the oil that was sold to China was sold through President Biden's son's corporation that he had set up. Does not strike you as being like some kind of maybe conflict of interest, or something that's underhanded? It probably should be investigated.
You would
yeah,
think,
sure. I mean,
but
if we had a real,
the fox is protecting the hen house right now, so I wouldn't expect anything to be done.
Yeah, I don't expect anything to be done about it either. But it just goes to show you how crooked these people are.
Right. Maybe after the midterms, if we get a big House and Senate swing, which Trump, he announced, yesterday, day before, he technically didn't say he's running, but he, in a roundabout way, said he's running. He said that he's already made his decision. He's 100% made his decision whether he's running or not. He knows. He hasn't decided when he's going to announce yet. But then later in the speech, he said that when he announces, there will be some people. He didn't want to announce too early because there will be some people when he announces that won't run, meaning some other Republicans, like maybe Ted Cruz or Ron DeSantis or who knows who he's talking about, but implying that there's other Republicans that wouldn't run against him if he runs.
Right.
So him saying that then he's not, they wouldn't run. But with him earlier saying that he's 100% decided whether he is or isn't means he is. Or the second part of that statement wouldn't make any sense.
This is my problem with the Republicans is they talk a good game, but that's all it is. It's like when Obamacare got passed, and they're like, oh, if you give us the House and the Senate, we'll kill Obamacare. And if you give us the presidency, and they had it all, and they didn't do anything.
Right.
But they still want us to support them. They still want us to vote for them, but they don't actually keep their promises. And I wish we had a larger audience than what we did. Maybe someone would hear this and take it to Mitch McConnell or whoever is, and say, look, see, this is why people don't. I've been flirting with just going libertarian. Yeah. And here's the thing. The reason people like Trump is because he told us what he was going to do, and then he went in and he did his best to do exactly what he said he was going to do.
Trump's one of the few that's ever done that. Most of them, as soon as they get elected, their whole goal is to start funding for next re-election.
And that's what it's all about.
Uh-oh. Slim Jims are about to get more expensive. Makers of Slim Jim jerky and Hunt's tomato sauce is hiking prices to help offset higher costs. Which, the other day, the new inflation numbers come out for the month. So we were at 9.1% now.
Oh, sweet.
Would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated and no more subsidies for either one of those, any fossil fuel.
Yeah, they make no sense.
No, and that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, because China, they're making fireplaces. They're going to generate the electricity to run their economy, and they don't care that they're polluting.
Right. We're not even touching what they're doing.
So while China is striving to become a first world nation, we're, it seems like, dead set on, hey, we need to turn ourselves from a first world nation into a third world nation, because I feel so guilty about everything.
The idea that a lot of people make, the arguments that they make, the defense of, or the lack of defense sometimes in different things. Like when people are, whether they're talking about abortion or whether they're talking about, like you were saying, with fossil fuels or with gun rights or just anything, they don't have an actual argument. They just make a statement and then, kind of like on the abortion issue. If you don't have a uterus, you have no opinion. If you're a man, you have no opinion.
Right.
Or guns, there's just no reason for anybody to have any kind of gun. When people just make those, I don't know, in my opinion, a non-defensible argument, there's nothing you can even say to them. I mean, I don't even know what the conversation would be, because they're not going to listen to anything you have to say anyway, because they're not even making an effort to defend their belief. I mean, I've always said, and I've always taught my kids that, you should have an opinion. You should have a strong belief in something. But you should also be able to have the ability to defend your opinion and your belief. If you don't, all you're doing is regurgitating something somebody else told you. And here's one little clip I'll play. We talk about going to the far extremes. Everything is a slippery slope. And I always think of, there's that one TikTok, the guy, he's talking about, he's a gay guy that's talking about, he's married to this other guy. And he was talking about back 7-8 years ago when we're fighting for the, equal rights for marriage and stuff like that. He said everybody was back then saying, oh, it's a slippery slope. Next thing you know, they're going to be trying for children. They're going to be trying for this. And he was like, that's not true. He said, but now look at it. And that's what he was even saying. Maybe it wasn't that much worth fighting for back then if it was going to result in this happening today. Mm-hmm. Even with the trans stuff in the locker rooms and the sports. And I remember watching interviews 4, 5, 6 years ago when some of that was starting. pretty heavy with the bathroom stuff. And people were taking it then, the slippery slope angle, and saying, well, what happens when a man says he identifies as a woman, but he hasn't gone through any, hormone replacement. He hasn't done anything other than making a statement that he identifies as a woman, and then now wants to compete with women. And they were like, oh, that'll never happen. Nobody will do that. You're just throwing that out there to scare people. But that happens. It's happening a lot now.
It's happening right now.
Right. My view is anytime you make a loophole for anything, people are going to exploit it to their benefit.
Like the swimmer. He was a mediocre swimmer. And all of a sudden he decides, oh, I'll be a girl. I'll take the hormones and I'll be a girl and I'll compete against girls and I'll win. And he went from a mediocre swimmer to the number one in the female category. Even though he's not a female, he'll never be a female. He will always be a he. He'll just be a he who has mutilated his body to appear to be female. That's all it will be.
And at least in his case, he's done some things. He's had some surgery. He's taken some hormones. At least he's made a small commitment. But that's not even required. No. I mean, I could just say now, I identify as a woman, and I'm going to start competing in powerlifting as a woman.
Right.
And do nothing else.
Really nice beard.
Yeah.
No, I got this really nice beard here.
Well,
hey, I was at work the other day, and I found an article. You know how you were talking about how, 50, 100 years into the future, people are going to look at the abortion issue like slavery?
Right.
Well, I actually found an article that had a title that was something similar to that, but the guy that wrote it wasn't saying that, the abortion of baby is going to be considered in the life of slavery. He was going the opposite side of it, saying that setting up like an underground railroad to get people out of states that don't allow abortions into states that do allow abortions.
Oh, what do they call that now? Going camping?
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is.
Yeah, that's what they call it now. Is that I'll take them camping means I'll help transport them secretly and quietly.
But the point of it is he was missing the whole point of why slavery. They were saying people aren't really their property. Exactly what the people are for. They're saying this isn't a person inside of me; it's property. Even though that's exactly what it is. It's a person, but they don't want to acknowledge it as being a person.
Right.
And that's my whole. Whether that comes from my Judeo-Christian beliefs or because of the way I interpret the Constitution, it's wrong. You just can't. I've said this to you on several occasions. I'll say it again because it makes me laugh. But if a man and woman together and they do what they do, baby, and puppies or kittens come out, I could possibly get on your abortion issue and be on your side. But that's never happened.
Right.
It's always been another person that is produced.
Right.
So I can't actually come over to your side.
Right. As soon as that cell splits for the first time and the new DNA is formed, it's a new human being.
Yes.
In a continuing process of development until it dies. Doesn't matter location.
The life cycle. Just when we were kids, we had science class and had a life cycle of a bee or an ant, and they would show you from the very beginning to the very end. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Here's the pictures. Here's the egg. Here's the thing that comes along and fertilize it, and then it looks like this, and it looks like this, then it looks like this, then it looks like this, and it grows up a little bit, and it's an ant or it's a bee. But there's the life cycle of this. Same thing for people. The egg and the sperm, they come together, and there's your first. And life cycle of the human being is when those two come together, it starts. Everything that you ever are going to be comes together in that moment with the chromosomes from the mother and the chromosomes from the father. They come together and make a totally unique individual.
Still different DNA
in some way. Yeah, it's still going to be different DNA too. You may look alike, but you're still different. Right. They're sacrificing these kids on the altar of convenience, and that's the thing. well, it's convenient for me maybe right now because, I was like, well, if it's not convenient for you to have a baby, then maybe you should be using some kind of birth control.
Following their logic, if you take it slippery slope, here's somebody who is making that statement, or taking it, because it doesn't take long before people start saying, like we've talked about, they say, like you were giving the example of, in the inconvenience is going to be tough on their life, the convenience of them. But some talk about the struggle of the child. You don't want to bring a child, or what they say, you don't want to bring a child into a family that's super poor, that can't afford the kids they have, that's going to be a rough life for that child, or who knows what other difficulties that child's going to have in life, is some of their whole argument. And that's kind of what this woman makes that argument, but she takes it to the extreme.
It makes more sense, in my opinion, to offer abortion services up until a child is 18 years old. Because until they reach adulthood, we don't know if they're going to be a productive member of society. So based on the argument that we have heard today, we should allow it up until they are adults. It would solve many problems. Think of the disruptions in school, bad behavior, anything. If you could just say to your child, well, I'm sorry, you're misbehaving, you're not going to be a productive member of society, or you're going to have a hard life, let's go off to the abortion clinic. And it would be more humane for that child, because we know what abortion looks like in the womb, and it is horrible. It would be much more humane to simply go to the abortion clinic and have the child put to sleep. Would you not agree?
What was the answer?
That was all it was. Now, that clip.
Was she being facetious? I hope she was.
Yeah, I think so. But that's what she's using their logic.
This is Savannah Hernandez here in Venice Beach. Now, California is trying to pass a bill to legalize infanticide 7 days post-birth. Let's go see what Californians think of the bill.
So I prefer that most women make their decisions at 8 weeks, but I'm also in support of 10 months out of the womb.
So you think babies should be aborted 10 months after they're born?
See, he was all for that.
These people are they're smoking way too much dope.
So if you want to get a late-term abortion, that's up to you. I've had an abortion too, and it was my choice, and I'm happy I had that choice.
Because if you're talking about post-birth, that's not considered an abortion. You can look up abortion in the dictionary.
So would it be considered murder at that point?
I mean, if somebody,
I guess,
anything that is, pre-birth, if it involves termination of a fetus, that's considered an abortion. I 100% support it. I've had an abortion myself. I'm not a bad person because I made the choice that was right for me, and now I have a life that I enjoy, and I wouldn't take it back.
Would you guys get an abortion again?
Yes.
100%.
100 times. I'd do it multiple times.
Until I feel that I'm ready.
They're just horrible people. I mean, that's...
Yes.
Now...
yes, they are.
If you could convince me, and I know that's the whole argument the whole time, is if you could convince me it's not a life, it's not a human being, and you're not violating that human being's rights, because I'm all for nobody should have any say in what a woman does with her body. I agree. As long as it's not impacting another human being. It's like you as a female, you can drink and do you could drink alcohol until you die. And I think you should legally be allowed to do that. But now you can't get behind the wheel of a car and drive because you're going to impact, or even then it's even a possible. We outlaw that. Even though it's not 100% guaranteed you're going to wreck and kill somebody else or hurt somebody else. But just for the opportunity of hurting somebody else, we've made that a crime. But yet this, in the situation of abortion, it's 100% of the time going to kill, or the intent is to kill the child. Now, like I said, if you can convince me that it's not a child, it's not a human, right. I agree with pro-choice when it comes to
and it's not
affecting somebody else.
It's not even her body.
Right. But see, that's the side that they won't. That's why they won't argue that point. They don't want to say anything about whether it's living. That's why they want to use the term fetus instead of baby but I mean, fetus is just another name of development, just like we have infant and toddler and child and all these names of adult, teenager, senior citizen. We classify every stage of development. We give them a name.
Yes.
It doesn't give it any less or more value.
It doesn't make it any less human.
Right.
Just because you call it a fetus.
But that's why I view that as it's a waste of time to argue with somebody like that won't argue it.
Yeah, I see your point, but there's still the fact that somebody's got to, you got to say something.
Right.
I feel you should. If you get into that, now I'm not saying you go out and just be like to people, but if you get into the conversation with somebody, then you make your what you believe known.
Yeah.
And I had a really interesting conversation with a lady at work, and she's all for abortion and everything like that. Right. And I told her, I said, no, I don't think so. She's like, you're not for abortion? I'm like, no, I'm not. I said, because that's a human being you're killing. And of course, she went straight to the fetus argument. Oh, it's a fetus. Right. I'm like, no, it's a person. No. It's always been. Well, she's like, well, what about in the case of rape and incest? I'm like, so you're going to punish an innocent individual for the crime that someone else committed? I said, what else? Where in our laws do we do that? Ever do that?
Right.
We don't.
But
it's supposed to be the individual. If they do something wrong, we punish them.
Right. But my statement, or to somebody like that, when they always bring that up, because that's usually what they bring up: rape, incest, or the danger to the mother. I'll always say, okay, let's say I'll give you that. I'll give you. If it's a medical emergency, a danger to the mother, which I still don't believe that's needed to be done, but let's say I give you that, and I give you rape and incest, that those are justifiable. Because I think there are justifiable things sometimes in life, just like murder. I mean, killing somebody, homicide, sometimes is justifiable. I mean, you can defend your life. So just the basic act of killing another person isn't always wrong. It's always a horrible thing when it happens, because you shouldn't ever want to be in that situation. But let's say I give them that. And then usually when you say, okay, if I give you those two stipulations, rape and incest and the medical danger to the mother, would you then be okay with outlawing every single other abortion? They'll always say, no, it's still the woman's choice. Then you say, well, then it has nothing to do with rape and incest and medical for the mother. You just want to use those
as your anvil and hammer to pound this. Yeah.
When it doesn't, those don't matter to you.
No, those are just convenient talking points for you, and you think it gives you the upper hand or the moral superiority. Oh, well, it's rape and it's incest and it's bad and it's wrong. Yes, you're right, it is. But like I said, you're going to go and you're going to punish an innocent human being for what someone else did. Bravo. I read an article today, as a matter of fact. It was on the Daily Wire. Talking about a retired police officer. He has people up to his door, kick the door in, and when they kicked the door in, it caught him just the right way, and it knocked him down, and it knocked his pistol out of his hand. So he got up and he retreated back into the back part of his house and got an AK-47 style weapon and came out and was shooting at these people to drive them out of his house.
Yeah.
And it was, I think this happened in Florida, and they were asking the sheriff if they planned on charging the homeowner for what he did, and he's like, no, why should I? He was defending himself, his family, and his property. He didn't even go outside. He had people come to his house, and he was defending himself. He's like, no, I'm not going to bring charges against this guy. And I'm pretty sure with people asking that kind of stupid question, they're probably going to go to the attorney of jurisdiction and probably be like, try to push them into, we need to prosecute this. We need to prosecute this. This is wrong.
Joe Biden's new Title IX guidelines would classify the misuse of pronouns as sexual harassment.
That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Here's my thing about that. If I walk up to an individual on the street or they walk up to me and I've never met them before, I don't know who they are, I just address them the way that I think, and then they get all butthurt about it and want to, press charges against me because I mislabeled them. I'm like, number one, I don't know you, and I'm just going by what I see.
Right.
If you don't like that, then sorry, but I shouldn't have to participate in your delusion. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have to. If you want to do it, if you want to have the delusion, if you want to, play whatever, play dress up, you go right ahead, and I'm not going to stop if that's what floats your boat. Float it right on down the river. But I shouldn't have to participate in your stupidity and in your crazy fantasy world. I don't know if did you ever watch Star Trek: The Next Generation?
Not too much.
I watched it. I liked it. I thought it was a good show. I enjoyed it greatly. Anyway, one of the episodes in the latter season, Picard gets taken captive by Cardassians and then interrogated. I think there was 4 lights above the man's desk shining down on him, and the guy that was torturing Picard basically wanted him to admit that there were 5 lights and not 4.
Yeah. Tim Pool talks about that all the time.
I feel like that's the way that the Democrats and these trans people are doing us. They're like, and 4 lights or 5 lights. There's really 5 lights,
Right.
Just like, so there's not really 2 genders. There's a spectrum, and you've got to embrace the spectrum, and that's just what it just seems like that's what they're trying to do. And of course, he gets sprung at the very last minute when he's just, I guess, getting ready to break. And he turns around and he looks at the guy and he says, "There are 4 lights." And he just turns around and walks up.
But yeah, that Tim Pool talks about that episode a lot.
That's exactly the way what's going on with our society today. Is these crazy people on the left are trying to tell us there's 5 lights when there's only 4. And I've never heard him actually. I've listened to some Tim Pool. I've never heard him talk about that.
Oh yeah, I've heard him say it, bring it up probably 5 or 6 different times on episodes.
What's this?
Crypto prices. I was just messing with some overlays. Let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Hit that subscribe button.
What happened?
What'd you do? You tearing everything up.
I think I broke my chair. It'd be all right.
Okay, everybody, if you haven't already, subscribe to Socially Sensitive on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to favorite podcasts at. While you're there, leave a review and a 5-star rating. Also, find us on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, all social media platforms by searching at Socially Sensitive. Also, check out our website, sociallysensitive.com. Or if you want to buy any merch, you can go to sensitivetees.com for t-shirts or anything else that's of your liking. But you hit that like and subscribe button and tell all your friends. All right. Anything, Wolfie?
I'm good.
Yep. All right. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and a review. To catch all the latest from us, you can go to sociallysensitive.com and follow us on Instagram at sociallysensitive and on Twitter at sociallysense. Thanks again, and see you next time.